total, so you should have 12 or 13.
I think you think it's pretty good.
Any other public comment forms? No?
Okay, yeah, I'll take it.
There is more room available on the sides. You're welcome to stand along the sides next to come on in.
All right, it's 6 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and call the county board meeting to order. John, if you could call the roll, please.
Atkins. Here. Crawford. Here. Mark Goddard. Here. Sam Goddard. Here. Graff. Here. Hagman. Here. Hall. Here. Harris. Here. Josting. Here. Crable. Here. Longfellow. Here. Mennel. Mennel. Here. Mingus. Nelms. Paget. Paget. Frail. Rich Stinson. Schneider. Here. Sin. Here. Smith. Here. Chairman Zimmerman.
Here. We have a quorum. We'll do business. If we could rise for the invocation and a pledge. I have been asked to take care of the important business first. The restroom key is on the left side of that door, so the facilities go ahead and grab those. All right, let's come before the Lord. Heavenly Father, thank you for being such a faithful God. Thank you that we live in a free country where we can come together and debate these issues. I pray that we can do that in a spirit of civility, and once votes are taken, that we can leave in a spirit of unity. Thank you for all these citizens who've come out here tonight. We just appreciate their interest and their passion. I pray that we can honor them with the things that we say and do tonight. Thank you for our employees and just the wonderful job that they do for us in making Tazewell County run smoothly. And I lift up this board. Father, give us wisdom and discernment as we work through these issues. I pray for the citizens of Ukraine. I pray for the citizens of Turkey and Syria that are dealing with the earthquakes. Even despite of these tragedies, we know that you're a sovereign God, and we take hope in that. And we pray all these things in your name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we're going to take go out of order here for just a second. If I could get a motion for, let's see, Item 20E2332, motion by Crawford, second by Sin. This is to bring Michael Deppert forward as our new board member. Are there any questions? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Michael, step forward.
So raise your right hand, repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Michael Deppert,
Having been appointed
have been appointed
to the office of
to the office of
Tazewell County Board
Tazewell County Board
in the County of Tazewell,
in the County of
in
Tazewell,
the state of Illinois,
in the state of Illinois,
after said do solemnly
after said do solemnly
swear I will support
swear that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully
that I will faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of
of
the office of
the office of
Tazewell County Board
Tazewell County Board
to the best of my
to
ability.
the best of my ability.
Congratulations, sir.
Well, welcome aboard, Michael. Board members haven't met him yet. I encourage you to make the effort after the meeting to see him. We have communications from members of the public and county employees. Are there any other forms that need to be turned in? Okay? Okay, great. I will go ahead and start with Verge Sila. Would like to speak. If you could come up to the podium and state your name. And I'm grouping these by topic, so I believe yours are ARPA funds.
My name is Verge Sila. Mr. Chairman, board members, I sent a letter to the board members who are on the property committee expressing concerns regarding the current controversy about the two buildings across Capitol Street from the courthouse. I followed up with a phone call with Greg Longfellow. First, I want to say Greg reinforced my opinion that the current and former board members are fiscally conservative. He mentioned several times that the board members strive to spend Tazewell County taxpayer money wisely. I've sensed the same for years. Second, there's been a significant behind-the-scenes analysis that has not been communicated with the Tazewell County taxpayers, and the transparency has been lacking. Third, in my opinion, most important is that most of the $25 million awarded to Tazewell County from the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, ARPA, has not been voted on by the county board. At this time, less than 10% has already been spent. So I've got a card, I'm happy to share with everybody. And as I detail on this card, about 40% of the ARPA funds have been allocated. The dollar amounts on the card represent allocation of the ARPA windfall. The county board has yet to vote on most of the dollars associated with ARPA. While these figures are ballpark figures, I do want to make 3 points. First, if $8 million is allocated to construction projects, we have evidence that post-pandemic actual costs will likely be much higher. Prudence may say we should allocate about $12 million for those projects instead of the $8 million that is on the card. Second, the remaining 50 to 60% of the funds can be allocated to projects that can significantly reduce the ongoing operating expenses by relocating county employees. Up for discussion is whether the new location would be maybe in the Tazewell building, maybe in the arcade building, maybe in the Sugar building, or maybe in a new building. Third, the $32 million, according to the rumors, of a new building to house the criminal court functions far exceeds the 50 to 60% of the ARPA money that has not been allocated. So, and also the details for such a building really seem to lack broad consensus within the elected county officials and within the county board. So as one Tazewell County taxpayer, I recommend allocating the balance of the ARPA dollars to reduce the ongoing operating expenses by relocating county employees into a single facility. As I understand the organization of the county board, the property committee should have the debate about where to relocate county employees, and I recommend that the property committee do this in public at their monthly meetings. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Now we're going to move on to, I believe, the solar farm. And just as I should have said this up front, 3 to 5 minutes is kind of the general rule for public comment. Joyce Blumenshine, would you like to step forward? And if you could just state your name and...
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Joyce Blumenshine. I'm here about the solar farm, and it ties into wind. I hope that's okay. I'll be very short. So I just want to thank the board and the citizens. I grew up in Tazewell County, a native. Our family reunions are on Holland Road, Grove Road, and I knew Grosenbach Road well. I'm just concerned because I see the future before us. Change is not mandatory, but if we want to survive as a people, as a healthy planet, it's really necessary. So I'm here just with a few points. I'm a little confused because for the solar project and for the wind ordinance coming, I want to point out these are jobs, and it's also revenue, tax revenue for schools and tax revenue for the future of the county. Now, what looks pretty to some people may not look pretty to others, but what benefits 1,000 people versus what benefits a couple of people, and the view from their front porch, we have to weigh and balance all things, and it's a tough job. I respect that. Just a few points in closing. A 200 milliwatt project alone would be 200 plus new construction jobs and 11 long-term jobs for wind, and $40 million over the life of that for school districts over the course of the project. That might help Texas, you just don't know. Existing wind projects like the split rail already paid $6 million in property taxes to the county since being operational in 2009, and that is half the sizes of new projects. The ordinance that is proposed tonight for wind and what happened on your solar vote makes a clear message to these developers that Tazewell County is not friendly, that you don't want to embrace the future, that you are stuck with your heads in the sand for the past, and what matters to you most is the view out your front window, not what will be clean air and a healthy future for your kids, or what these kids learn from you all in things that are not facts, and things that are rumors anybody can pick up off the internet and claim at a zoning hearing are facts, and that are never proven untrue, but they are. So in closing, to date, total wind energy investment in Illinois is over $13.7 billion, and this is going to consider growing in the future. Logan County gets 59% of their county budget supported by wind, and 24%, a quarter of the budget in McLean County, is supported by wind. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. David Spurlock?
My name is David Spurlock. Thank you, Board Chairman and Board members. I'll be very brief. Just last month, this group unanimously supported a resolution condemning the state legislature for taking away local control over land use for wind and solar projects. Excuse me. This was well-deserved pushback against Springfield overstepping their boundaries, so thank you for that resolution. Earlier this month, the Zoning Board of Appeals spoke for the residents of Tazewell County by recommending a denial of this change in zoning from R1 to A1 for Fond du Lac Park District property located along Grosenbach Road, and by denying a special use permit requested by Solarstone, the solar company. Now, does anyone here doubt that if this zoning change that's been requested is granted, a special use permit will then be granted by Springfield, ignoring the will of the people and the county? Let's keep control of Tazewell County property in the hands of Tazewell County. Deny this voting change request. Thank you.
Thank you. Owen Lofgren? Owen?
He's out in the hall.
Okay.
I'll yield my time.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, David Fay?
I'm David Fay. My property is 22242 Grossenbach Road. It would be directly across from the solar farm. I'm urging the board to uphold the Zoning Board of Appeals ruling and the Land Use Committee's ruling that the property remain R1 and a special use declared not be given. The Park District signed the contract in July of 22. The residents didn't find out about this until mid-December of 22. During that period, we had numerous contacts with the Park District, and they never mentioned it. The solar farm is inconsistent with the park use and also the uses in the current area. It would be a real eyesore, destroy the beauty of the neighborhood, and disrupt wildlife paths. So, just leave it as R1.
Thank you. Gary Waldschmidt? We normally don't have this many people here, so I apologize for the cramped conditions.
I'm Gary Walsmith, I live at 22219 Grossenbach Road. Thank you for this opportunity. Tonight, we're here to ask you to protect our land and our neighborhood from the rezoning of this site from R1 to A1, which would essentially give away your authority to the state of Illinois to decide our future. The state has clearly shown support for all types of renewable sources of energy. We believe there would be little regard for the location or the impact of their decision on our neighborhood. Because of the damage to property values, natural habitat, road safety, community well-being, and overall destruction to the aesthetic beauty of our neighborhood, we believe that we should deny the request to rezone this property. There have been accusations that we are against solar energy. This is not true. We are questioning the location of the development. First on parkland, second in the middle of a neighborhood next to a school, a church, single-family homes. The idea of picking this location is beyond understanding. Fond du Lac Park District entered into the lease agreement before getting any input from the community that this decision would most affect. I'm very disappointed in our Park District's total disregard for our community for extra monetary gain. I hope our local governing bodies will protect us from this mismanagement.
Thank you. And then finally, on the solar farm, Joe Mitchell.
My name is Joe Mitchell, and I work at Bayview Baptist Church on Grossenbach Road, one of the assistant pastors there. And I first want to say thank you for the boldness of your faith and the open in prayer. I appreciate that. I want to clearly state up front that I am against the rezoning of the land on Grossenbach Road from R1 to A1. First of all, because A1 is not consistent with what currently exists on Grossenbach. A1 is not a good fit for this area because the land is surrounded by low-density residential properties. Secondly, rezoning this land from R1 to A1 will likely lead to the installation of a large-scale solar farm on Grossenbach Road, which would have tremendous, lasting, negative effects on this area. It has been said that every neighborhood is special to the people that live there. In many cases, that is probably true. With that thought in mind, a solar farm of this magnitude probably does not belong in the middle of any residential area. But having said that, in the case of Grossenbach Road, this area is truly different. It's not simply that Grossenbach Road is just special to the residents and therefore we're trying to protect it. This small stretch of road truly is a special and unique area. And a solar farm of this magnitude absolutely does not belong here for three main reasons. Number one, a solar farm of this magnitude on Grossenbach Road will completely destroy destroy the natural beauty of this small stretch of road and what the residents there have built their homes around. But this is just one reason. Second, the solar farm of this magnitude on Grossenbach Road would pose a very real and serious traffic threat to the cars that drive on this road, both the residents and the through traffic. It would pose a very real and serious traffic threat to the school buses that drive on this road, the motorcycles and cyclists that travel on this road, the local runners who use this road, and the residents and local businesses who walk this road every single week. The road is too narrow, and there are some dangerous corners where the views in the intersections would be completely blocked. This is a real and serious problem. Finally, putting in a 40-acre solar farm surrounded by an 8-foot chain link fence would wreak serious havoc on the local wildlife. These fields and surrounding woods are a main breeding area and thoroughfare for hundreds of deer, and a lot of these deer and other wildlife would likely be pushed towards Route 116 and Route 24. The people of the Fond du Lac Park District work very hard for our communities, and we appreciate what they do. I think it's important to recognize that. But it is also their job to evaluate and understand these risks and help protect areas like this. They were entrusted to do this when they purchased the land from Kathy Fay in 2003, and there was a mutual agreement to protect this area from projects like this. We want to make it very clear that not one of the 200 plus parishioners at our church, not one of the 33 school families at our school, and not one of the neighbors who live on Grossenbach Road want this here or think it's a good idea. In conclusion, I'd like to make a couple thoughts regarding our situation and the situation with the wind farms. First of all, I'd like to say that I have a much greater appreciation for each of you who serve on boards like this. There's a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes and a lot of decisions that need to be made for our communities. And I want to thank each and every one of you for giving your time to serve us and to help protect our communities. As you are aware of, there are some decisions that your committee makes that, although important, do not carry with them tremendous community-wide consequences. There are some decisions that need to be made, like maybe granting a variance or rezoning a small piece of land, that don't impact many people. But sometimes there are tremendous decisions that are to be made that carry with them tremendous consequences. These decisions impact a lot of people, and in some cases have lasting generational impacts. These decisions could impact communities and generations of people for many years to come, and it is these decisions that we ask you to make with utmost care. Before you tonight, you have two such decisions. If you choose to rezone the land on Grossenbach from R1 to A1, and if a solar farm of this magnitude is allowed to go in on Grossenbach Road, this would negatively impact this area for generations. This would be a 45-year lease. It would negatively impact road traffic, surrounding properties, the beauty of the area, and wildlife traffic, and it would have an impact on many, many people. In regards to the wind farm, though I'm not privy to much of the information that has been discussed on this, if the decisions you make tonight would have an impact, if the decisions that you make tonight that impact these areas that are being considered for wind farms would have a negative impact on the farmland, this would cause a problem for future generations. If it would have a negative impact directly or indirectly due to an increased tax burden from the decommissioning of these wind machines, or due to the impact of the associated government grants, this too would cause a huge problem for future generations. If the carbon footprint from installing and decommissioning these things would have a greater negative impact on future generations than the good that would come from using them, that must weigh into these decisions. I'm simply asking that you please make these decisions, both regarding Grossenbach Road and regarding the wind farm, that have the potential to have a tremendous negative impact, not just on a few people, but on many, many generations to come. Please make these decisions with the right knowledge and with great care. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, move on to the wind farm comments tonight. Keith Cornwell.
Good evening.
If you could
Only
state
reliable source of
if you could
tax-
state your name, Keith,
Oh,
that'd
Andy Cornwell.
Okay.
The only reliable source of tax income in this state is property taxes. Unlike other businesses, farmers can't flee this state because we can't take the land with us. As the revenues base grows smaller, it's not difficult to guess where the state and other governing bodies will turn to make up for their lost revenue. Past experience guarantees that fiscal responsibility will remain an unused tool. Of course, the Tazewell County Bureau Board being an exception to that. You are responsible. Owning property in a free society allows you to utilize it in a responsible manner as you see fit. For that privilege, you get to pay property taxes. Nobody's stepping up to pay mine, so you can't really tell me what to do with my property. Thank you.
All right. And as we go through, if a specific issue's already been covered, if you could maybe speak through that part or just say, what's been said, I agree with, just to move this through. Melanie Blankenship.
Hello, my name is Melanie Blankenship. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak this evening. I currently live in Logan County. However, we own farmland in Tazewell County and are planning to build a new home on that land this year. We are excited to come to Tazewell County because we feel there are a lot of positive things happening here, such as this ordinance up before you this evening. And you appear to be a conservative county that has a sense of pride and professionalism. As I said, we are from Logan County, and in my opinion, we feel they have their sights set on the wrong goals for its citizens. They want to be the wind farm capital of Illinois, and I'm sure this is one of many reasons they are losing population. It is certainly one of the many reasons we have decided to move. In my opinion, they have become so focused on attaining this status, they no longer care about the safety and voice of their citizens. And I can assure you, as a taxpayer, when your budget is financed by over 59% of wind farm money, it's a problem, and I can talk more about that later. This was evident in November of 2022 when the board voted to approve a wind farm where roughly 60% of the turbines were clearly in the NOAA weather radar mitigation zone. They did so even after a long-term, now retired NOAA employee who was well known and trusted in the community testified regarding the dangers of this decision. Additionally, a meteorologist from a local TV station also testified against it based on his real experience earlier in 2022 with a tornado where they lost sight of it due to wind turbines being in the way. Over the years, I have attended numerous zoning, board of appeals, and county board meetings and observed how this process plays out. And I have many more stories I could tell you, but we might save those for later. In the end, it is my opinion that this process is usually one-sided where money prevails over the equitable representation of the citizens. My husband and I are small landowners. We personally are not interested in wind farms because we feel the return on investment for green energy is not there when you factor in citizenry safety and the environment issues that are realized from mining raw materials, the falconry impacts, and the decommissioning disposal versus the amount of energy they actually produce. Again, just our opinion based on the research and experience, we have to question, is green energy really green? It is not our intent to say no one can have a wind turbine on their property. We are just saying that it is not right for us. We support this ordinance because we feel it provides some equitable attributes for both sides. Landowners who want a wind turbine and those who do not want to have to live by them. Decommissioning expenses are a very big concern of ours. If the reserves are not sufficient, then there is the potential that all taxpayers may get stuck with the bill when the landowners who made money off of the wind turbine and whose property the taxpayers would essentially be cleaning up is basically absolved from those responsibilities and expenses, while other taxpayers have to bear the cost burden of property cleanup out of their own pocket. For example, a gas station owner who decides to get rid of his gas station has to bear the cost of removing the tanks and cleaning up the site out of his own pocket. The ordinance maintains a level playing field for all taxpayers, in my opinion. In closing, I strongly believe government should work for all citizens, not just a few. I ask you to please vote yes for this ordinance. A yes vote provides a more equitable solution for all taxpayers who share the cost of government decisions and not just a few. Thank you.
Thank you. Amber Toll.
Hi everyone, my name is Amber Toll. I'm asking for your support tonight on the proposed wind ordinance text amendment. Since there's a few new board members, I'd like to share a little with you about myself. I'm a fourth-generation farmer, born and raised on a farm in rural Mackinac. You've probably heard the saying before, that planting a seed is believing in tomorrow. Farmers believe in the future. They are also very reliant on a healthy environment. It truly is our goal to promote the responsible and safe development of renewable energy in Tazewell County. But we won't succeed by force, fear, or dishonest tactics. We must respect everyone's property rights. Multi-generation farms, or any business for that matter, are successful because they don't make hasty decisions that only show promise for short-term gain with no accountability for the future. It is imperative as we make these decisions today, both farmers for their operations and you as Tazewell County board members, that we are not only looking to protect the natural resources we have today, but we are also looking into the future, protecting our next generation. I understand that Act 102-1123 further complicates the situation around the wind ordinance in Tazewell County. But a positive vote for a protective ordinance is a show of good faith to the citizens that you were elected to serve and protect. This further shows that Tazewell County will continue to put their people first in all decisions, having extra precautions in place and backing them down only when needed is a responsible approach. A lot can happen in the remaining 90 days that the county was given to become compliant. Citizens of Tazewell County will not give up when it comes to protecting the welfare and property rights of all of us who live here, and neither should you. Last month, you unanimously voted on a resolution condemning the state of the passing of HB 4412. I hope your concerns run deeper than the fact that they took away your control and that you are deeply concerned with the lack of accountability and protections that the state is offering. For the same reasons that you are concerned with the state's recent actions, we are concerned for our property rights and our protections if we become wind tower neighbors. From the start, our hesitations to participate in such a project stemmed from shortcomings in the contract and in the zoning ordinance. If we are going to promote further development of renewable energy in the state, we must do it with respect and consideration for the citizens that live here. There's a better way than kicking the can down the road, or in our state case, down the state. Wind turbines are intended to solve a problem. They're supposed to be a greener form of energy. Are we zoning them properly? Are we taking into account the displacement of the carbon footprint from one area to another? Are we being truthful and honest with ourselves and others about the motives behind our actions? What are we truly solving if the solution to one problem destroys the lives and natural resources in the process? Today you're voting on an ordinance. This vote has nothing to do with a specific project application or a specific company. This ordinance will establish the guidelines on how we will allow turbines to be built, the level of accountability that we will hold the developers and their successors to, and the level of safety that we will afford our citizens. It is a voice to the state of Illinois that the counties and the citizens want better protection. However you are justifying your vote tonight, remember to keep citizens first in all decisions. I know this has been a huge learning opportunity for all of us over the past years, and I believe that we can be a part of change for the better. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Fred Lawrence.
Thank you. I'm Fred Lawrence. I live in rural Mackinac. wanted to take a minute to address a statement that was made excuse me, by one of our board members that this whole ordinance amendment is being pushed by wealthy landowners. I want everyone to understand that that's not the case. Now, while some involved may be wealthy landowners, I certainly am not. But I do fully support the amendment, and I do fully support the United Citizens Group, certainly because they represent the viewpoint of private landowners better than some of our board members who would make such a statement. I know this because I've been to the meetings. I've seen the support at the United Citizens meetings. The general public is in support of the amendment to protect our homes, our future families, and the future of Tazewell County. Not just the view from my front porch, not just the view from your front porch, but to also protect our homes for our families coming from the flash of the fans, the vibrations, the future tear down remediation of these windmills. It's important to everyone and the majority of the public of Tazewell County that this ordinance be passed, and I urge you to vote for it.
All right, thank you. John Baker.
Hello, my name's John Baker. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm going to take a little different approach. I've been living in Tazewell County for over 40 years. We have a family farm in Boynton Township in Tazewell County and some in Logan County. I want to make it clear, I don't gain anything financial. I am not getting a windmill. They're not paying me to talk. I just worked in generation for 40 years. Over 20 years in Powers and here in Beacon, and the last 15, 17 at Havana Power Station in Havana. Recently, the company that bought Havana decided, with the state of Illinois and environmental groups, to shut down 2,000 megawatts of generating capacity. I guess my question is, where's it going to come from? Nobody wants this. You don't want a windmill in your backyard, I get it. And I understand there's an oversight, over push, but it has to come from somewhere. It's not magical in the wall. Somewhere generation has to be done, and none of it's perfect. I've worked in a coal plant. It's dirty, it's dangerous. The environmental impacts are obvious now. You can't deny what happens. They shut down 2,000 megawatts. Instantly, our Ameren bill doubled. Instantly. And that's not over yet. They're going to shut down more. So we need our electricity from somewhere. MISO had the option to change that, and they did. MISO is this region's system operator, controls the grid. They can do a must run and let these plants run. That's not an environmental answer, but there's really no good ones. Do you want a nuke plant in your backyard? Do you want to deal with 10,000 years of waste? Do you the power plants that they shut down are just sitting there. They're not going to get decommissioned. They're not going to do anything with them. It costs too much. They've got ash ponds, they've got grease and oil, there's diesel stored on site. It's been removed, but it's the residues, it's all still there. So I guess my question is, what are we going to do? There are very few options. Even hydro today was one of the best. The reservoirs are drying up because of global warming. Where is it going to come from? Electricity isn't an option. It isn't a luxury. It's a necessity for all of us. And I guess I'm concerned we keep pushing it down the road. Prices aren't going to get any better. During this year, when inflation went through the roof, at the same time people had to pay double utility bills. I don't know that windmills are the answer to everything. There's no perfect answer. Everybody wants something magical. It's just not going to happen. So the windmills right now, and extending the life of coal plants and nuke plants, the windmills and solar, really are about the only way we can increase capacity. and you can go ahead and push them to another state, like Illinois is so good at doing. I wish that we could have discussed the ordinance before the state got involved and actually came to a compromise instead of saying, this is what we want, this is what we gotta have. And if it passes, there'll be no more windmills. There'll be no more wind farms even discussed in Tazewell County. And you know, you talk about government overreach. You don't want to be told by the state what to do. That's how I feel with United Citizens saying, they would say in their discussions, because I spoke at the Zoning Board of Appeals also, and I heard a lot of, well, we're not against windmills. We're not against windmills. But that's not what your body said, your body language said, and that's not what your hundreds of yellow signs. It just said no windmills. Let's be honest with what we're at. You don't want an ordinance, you just want no windmills. So we need to be honest. Everyone needs to know. That's the truth. So I guess my point is, where's this generation going to come from? I like having my refrigerator. I like having air conditioning. I have solar on my house that I installed. Doesn't affect anybody else. Nobody can see it from the road. That'd be great if everybody do that. It'd help out the system. I understand that. But our system's hurting, and it's not going to go away anytime soon. So I believe by voting on this much stricter ordinances, it will kill any new wind farm development in Tazewell County. Many small municipalities, townships, rural school districts need tax dollars, and I don't know if you've noticed, there's no new development, there's no new houses, there's no new businesses coming to rural Illinois. So taxes are going to go up for the people that are still here. There's no, I wish there was a perfect answer, but there's not. This is the least problematic of them all. I believe this windmill should be allowed to be built. I agree with the gentleman that said, you know, you have the right to not have one, but you don't have the right to tell me I can't have one. So in closing, I hope that the board will look at this, and I don't understand with the state law that's just been passed, how this is even being done and discussed. How is it legal? I worry that my tax dollars will go to a frivolous lawsuit trying to battle this, and I don't think that's right. So I guess in closing, I would like them to think about this and not pass the ordinance.
All right, thank you. Emily Hopkins.
Thank you for the time to speak with you today. My name is Emily Hopkins, and I'm a project manager with EEP Renewables. We own the Rail Splitter Wind Farm, which we've operated in Tazewell County since 2009. In addition to evaluating the latest wind energy technologies to improve the performance of Rail Splitter, we are currently working on developing a second phase of the project. We're here today to express our deep concern with the proposed amended ordinance. It is restrictive and would have prevented our current wind farm from being built, and it would stop any future development in the county. Over the last almost 15 years, Rail Splitter has been a good community partner in southern Tazewell County. It currently employs 9 local citizens in full-time positions and provided over 70 jobs during construction. It has contributed more than $6 million in tax revenue to Tazewell County, approximately $3 million of which has gone to local schools. It has also given landowners a weather-resistant cash crop they can rely on, with over $12 million in landowner payments made to date. Had the ordinance being proposed today been in place in 2009, Rail Splitter would have never been built. We're excited to begin the next phase of Rail Splitter, and have been working closely with the community since 2020 to develop a project that everyone can be proud of. We want to make sure that you are aware of the support for wind energy shown by the numerous landowners who have signed up to participate in our project. We've had more than 50 families with close to 10,000 acres sign up to participate in Rail Splitter 2. These landowners want to see the project move forward. We estimate that Rail Splitter 2 will bring more than $31 million to Tazewell County through property taxes over the lifetime of the project. This revenue includes $22 million to local schools, $2 million to Tazewell County, $500,000 to Arlington Fire, and $750,000 to Boynton Township. We expect future upgrades to the rail splitter wind farm to allow it to continue bringing in comparable tax revenue to what it is currently generating. This is in addition to landowner payments and local spending during construction. EDP has worked hard to be a good community partner over the last almost 15 years, and we commit to continuing this relationship long into the future. We hope the county board reconsiders this proposed ordinance and instead allows for an ordinance that considers the needs of the community while also allowing for future development. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jim Griffin.
Good evening and thank you. My name is Jim Griffin. I'm a permitting attorney for Invenergy's proposed wind energy project in the county that's currently under development. As you've heard from other speakers tonight, wind energy is a beneficial and compatible use in the agricultural areas, as has been proven in Tazewell County. Now, I understand that some of you may have strong opinions on the new state siting law that's recently been enacted, but that's not on your agenda tonight. What's on your agenda tonight is a proposed ordinance that is intended to and will prevent any wind energy projects from being developed in Tazewell County. A vote in favor of this proposed ordinance is a vote to prohibit wind energy in Tazewell County. Wind energy projects allow farm families to utilize a small portion of their land to produce energy and create another income stream. Wind energy projects significantly increase the tax base of their communities, create new long-term jobs, and create significant amount of jobs and economic impact during construction. Meanwhile, the land surrounding the wind turbines continues to be used for agricultural purposes. The proposed ordinance before you tonight will prevent any of that from occurring. And I'm going to explain why. Give you a few examples. The proposed ordinance increases the property line setback for turbines to 3,000 feet in any direction. Under such a standard, the installation of one single turbine would require a landowner to own a parcel larger than 830 acres. 830 acres for one turbine. There's not a single parcel in Tazewell County of 830 acres. Neither rail splitter nor any other project in Illinois could meet that standard. The proposed ordinance contains a sound limit of 38 decibels. Neither rail splitter nor any other project in Illinois could meet such a standard. And no state or county that has ever conducted independent studies on wind energy sound has adopted a 38 decibel standard. And the reason they haven't is because there is no scientific justification for such a standard. The proposed ordinance has a standard of 0 shadow flicker on any adjoining parcels. Neither rail splitter nor any other project in Illinois could meet this standard. And those are just a few examples of the provisions under this proposed ordinance, which individually and collectively would stop any wind energy projects from being developed in the county. Tazewell County's experience with wind energy and surrounding counties don't support a wholesale replacement of your current reasonable wind energy standards and convert it to an anti-wind energy ordinance that would prevent all future wind energy projects. Wind energy projects are an appropriate and compatible use in agricultural areas, and there are hundreds of landowners in the county that have signed up for the Invenergy and EDPR projects that are under development. The proposed text amendment will deprive all of those landowners from the ability to participate in these projects. And depriving your landowners of their ability to participate in these projects is contrary to good land use planning, is contrary to the land use rights of your landowning constituents, is contrary to the economic interests of your constituents, and contrary to the economic interests of Tazewell County. So for these reasons, Invenergy respectfully requests that you vote no on today's proposed text amendment. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Kiana Knopsinger?
Okay, I'm Shannon Naxiger. You will see a packet has been handed out in front of you, and I'll go through each of the articles as we go along. But the United Citizens of Tazewell County has proposed an ordinance with many forward-thinking elements and protections from turbine issues that you may not understand today, but these issues will be evident over the next several decades as they're becoming more and more prominent in the news each day. This evening I would like to present some local evidence. We hear about turbine stuff all over the United States of America, but it's never in Illinois or very local to Tazewell County, and the articles I'm going to talk about are. So the first topic is setbacks. As proposed in the UCTC ordinance, all WEGS towers shall be a setback of a distance not less than 3,000 feet or 6 times the height of the turbine from non-participating property lines. And evidence has been submitted to support this distance from turbine manuals, even the wind companies themselves, as far as wind energy zones go when they are siting turbines. And keep in mind that a participating resident, so all the people who are talking pro-turbines, they can waive these setbacks, they can talk to their neighbors, and they can get an agreement to get a parcel of land to do what they want on their own land. This is protecting the humans who are trying to exercise their freedoms to not have turbines on their property, affecting their property when they did not sign up. So that is so crucial that these setbacks can be waived by any and every landowner in Tazewell County that would wish to. So why is 3,000 feet so vital? Please reference the first article in your packet. So on February 16th of 2023, a 400-foot turbine collapsed in Paxton, Illinois, just like completely fell over. So the neighbors roughly 1,320 feet away stated that the vibrations from the impact were felt inside their home. So it's safe to assume that if a 400-foot turbine can fall over, so can much larger ones. Currently, Tazewell County is talking about having 600-foot turbines. And do your residents feel protected from a collapse at 1,250 feet as being stated in the Tazewell County ordinance, or 3,000 feet from their actual property line? And when you view the image on the article, where would you feel comfortable sleeping at night? Because that can happen 24 hours a day. Would you want to be 3,000 feet away from the collapse or 1,250 feet? Now, if you would please reference Article 2 in the packet, this occurrence happened on January 6th of 2023 in LaSalle County, Illinois. A turbine was engulfed in flames, which maybe doesn't seem frightening until you look at the picture, and what really did it for me is the fire on the ground. Once it's on the ground, it can spread, especially if this fire would have happened just several months before in the fall time. Fiery debris falling from the nacelle in an empty field can extremely ignite dry crops, and depending on wind conditions, widespread field fires could occur in a matter of a few minutes. And all of these areas where these turbines are being sited are heavily dependent on a small volunteer fire department, one of which my husband has some involvement with, and it's volunteers, so you just call people and hope somebody shows up, especially when a fire is spreading so quickly through a field. So the final piece of information and evidence that I have in your packet is an article from February 16th of 2023 stating that EDP Renewables and Invenergy have until March 16th of this year to cover delinquent decommissioning costs in McLean County. McLean County Board Chairman John McIntyre said that after dealing with delinquency for 3 years, it was time to take steps to ensure that the decommissioning money is paid. So according to McLean County's wind ordinance, after 12 years of operation, EDP and Invenergy were required to set up an escrow account as a decommissioning fund in the amount of $35,000 per tower. The article you were handed states $25,000. But either way, McLean County trusted the wind developers just as we all are in Tazewell County. They have been making income off these towers for 12 years, and yet $0 have been paid towards what they were supposed to do for decommissioning funds. Take this as a warning, take this as a sign that we have to have an ordinance that lays out the black and white, that protects us from, we've all heard it a million times, the Tazewell County landfill situation. We do not want that. This is proof that they are not following through with their word in a neighboring county of McLean County, who we have all referenced as a good resource. So the same two companies have stood in front of our county board, and they have said over and over how committed they are to communities. They're being delinquent in our neighboring county because they got what they want. So they need to be required to follow through with their responsibilities to the end of the project, and that includes decommissioning. Communities like ours are being blinded by these short-term financial goals, just a little bit of money here and there, and we're not assessing the giant picture and how much money it's going to cost us in the future when they don't hold up their end of the obligation. So who's gonna take these towers down? Who's gonna be responsible? We need to be protected by an ordinance, and the United Citizens of Tazewell County ordinance is so strong in decommissioning, extremely strong. It was very well researched. So we're only as protected as well as our ordinance specifies, and we're only as protected by the companies that we choose to do commerce with. So thank you for voting for an ordinance that protects its citizens and the county's long-term financial assets.
All right, thank you. Brad Long.
My name is Brett Long. I live in rural Tazewell County, and I just wanted to make a couple of clarifications and a couple of points here. The people that presented the wind energy text amendment to the ZBA, land use, and now the full county board are not against renewable energy, regardless of what some people may say. In our minds, they don't know who we are and what we've been working towards. What we are against is the manner in which the WEX companies and the state of Illinois are trying to run roughshod over our county and have their will be done. We're trying to help you protect the citizens of Tazewell County by providing responsible guidelines regarding the placement of wind turbines. The text amendment before you this evening is strong, and it lays out specifics that protect participating and non-participating citizens. Granted, there are some items in there that are more stringent than the state has outlined, but there's plenty of time to alter or amend or tweak some of this before the compliance date. There are other items that are not addressed by the state that can be kept in, such as decommissioning language in the amendment that has just been referenced by Kiana. We've got some strong language in there. We certainly don't want you to be put in the position you were in with the Pekin landfill. Please don't let the state of Illinois completely dictate every aspect of this issue. Please vote yes for the UCTC text amendment as is written and protect the citizens of Tazewell County. And just on a side note, we've spent thousands, and I mean thousands of hours researching what's in this text amendment. We've looked at other counties. We've met with many, many different citizens in Tazewell County, not just landowners, but residents like Fred Lawrence and rural homeowners, people that live in our small communities. And we've gotten a lot of people, a lot of support, tons of support. The general community wants this text ordinance to pass. We've spent hours upon hours at meetings. I know you folks have seen us around, and sorry about that, but we are very concerned citizens, and we very strongly believe that this is something that Tazewell County needs to act on. Despite what the state's doing, again, you can work with this text amendment going forward. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Tim Bear.
My name is Tim Bear, and we get just a few brief comments. As I was getting ready for the county board meeting today, I found on the Tazewell County website the logo, quote, "keeping people first in all decisions." I wish to use this logo as a basis for my remarks. We of the United Citizens of Tazewell County want to thank our Tazewell County board members for their service in debating and voting on the issue of renewable energy that is before the board tonight. And we want to encourage our board members to keep the Tazewell County logo in mind as the issue of renewable energy is considered. This logo, keeping people first in all decisions, applies to both sides of the issue. As Americans, we of the United Citizens of Tazewell County believe in freedom for all, both the rights of those who want renewable energy projects on believe that the United States of Tazewell County text amendment is a fairly balanced ordinance where a compromise for both sides has been reached. Example given, those who want renewable energy accept an increased setback, and those who do not want renewable energy accept that renewable energy will be closer to their property than preferred. We of the United Citizens of Tazewell County respectfully ask for a yes vote on the proposed text amendment, as this would indeed keep people first in all decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. And then finally, Craig Kilby.
My name is Craig Kilby from Mackinac, Illinois, and then I also farm south of Mackinac in the area that's being considered for wind development. Also a member and participant of United Citizens of Tazewell County. A lot of things have been mentioned tonight, and I just kind of want to summarize a little bit of that and also address a couple of things that were mentioned earlier from some of the proponents for wind turbines. One thing was mentioned also here tonight about the no turbine signs. I think a lot of people around here over the last few months have probably noticed those if you go on the southeast part of Tazewell County. But they aren't exactly being referenced here correctly. They were actually put out initially to make people aware of the other landowners who actually was participating in contracting for these, not whether or not they were for or against wind turbines. I think nearly everyone, in our group is really for renewable energy, just not the way that we have it in this county or as it was actually going to be allowed to be constructed in this county. So very interested in making sure that we are protecting our citizens. That's how we began our group, and very like-minded people became acquainted, and we had some very talented people, as you've been able to witness tonight. Electricity, we've been looking at all these renewables, and has anybody's electricity bill gone down? Well, it hasn't, because it's intermittent energy. So there has to always be another form of electricity that's available, will always have to be available in order to compensate for the days that we don't have wind and we don't have sun. And we've had a few of those certainly in Illinois, we will always in the future as well. So doubling the amount of infrastructure that we require in order to make our renewables pencil out in the state is also a problem. Certainly one we can address. I think the other thing that was mentioned also was school tax dollars from these property taxes that are going to be a part of this. Based on the state of Illinois Board of Education, about 9% of the funding for schools in the state is paid by federal, 65% property taxes and local funding, and 26% by the state, 26%. So one of the other things, though, that state funding is evidence-based. So whenever we get a dollar that comes in from maybe a wind turbine or property taxes, they see that the state measures all that in their metrics, they will probably no doubt take away a dollar from the state funding that we receive. So when they sit here and tell you all about the benefits of all these towers and the tax dollars that are going to be generated, true, and the state of Illinois will just take those away from us that we get already today. Okay, so the net gain is zero. The other thing was mentioned also is the amount of acres required by a single landowner in order to participate and have a turbine, that there was not a single tract of land by a single ownership in this county that was 832 acres. I think it was kind of addressed a little bit, but it will be clear that adjoining landowners that are also participating in a project also fill in the gap that would be present if there was an 832 acre tract available. So that is not a valid argument for whether or not they could place turbines in this county. Decommissioning is probably the biggest thing, I think, as we look at it. It's looking down the road, all the different generations in the future that we're going to shoulder this on. And I'm fifth generation. I spoke with my father, who's 92 today. He was hoping that we had some positive results tonight. And certainly he doesn't have a lot of years left to be a participant in this, but he's certainly concerned about it. With that, I want to also mention and recognize all of the board members. You've endured a lot with us, and we've enjoyed getting to know all of you. I know we have some new members on the board, but again, we certainly have enjoyed being part of this, and you've been gracious in your enduring our efforts as well. So with that, thank you.
All right. That concludes the public comment section. Just want to thank everyone who participated this evening. I think it was done in a respectful manner. Everyone was allowed to speak uninterrupted, and so I thank you for that. We're moving on to communications from elected and appointed county officials.
I didn't know we were going to be allowed to speak tonight, but could I say something about health issues in relationship to solar farms?
You know what, we actually made several announcements before to fill out in order to speak tonight. I don't know if you were not here, but at least 3 announcements were made, so I'm going to move on with the meeting, okay?
Last night,
Sir?
Dr. Lomax.
Okay, any comments from elected or appointed county officials? Greg?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out about the Broadway Road here east of Pekin. It was a project that was submitted over 5 years ago for federal and state funding, and we started setting aside the local match for that, and we set that aside over the last, it was recently completed. That road is the busiest county road in the county. It's also a lot busier than a lot of the state roads are that are in the county. And we have gotten a terrific road that's safe for travel. And I just wanted to recognize our county engineer, Dan Parr, and also, I don't think Paul Augsburger's here. He was our lead engineer on the project. It kind of got drawn out because we had issues moving the utilities, and we heard a lot of comments about when's it going to get done. But it was worthwhile. If you haven't driven it, I recommend you do. It really turned out to be a nice project. I wanted to thank Dan and Paul for their work on that.
It is a great road, and thank you, Dan. And thank your staff. Okay, any other comments? Nick?
Mr. Chairman, just before we get to the consent agenda, it took me a while to figure this out, but the resolution numbers for 6 and 7 are reversed.
They are, yes.
Okay.
So when we get to those, I'll just refer to their number rather than the actual bill number, but they are inverted. So, any other comments from elected or appointed county officials? Roy?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. When you get to the consent agenda on E2332, since we've already appointed this particular board member, will we be able to pull that still?
No, it's already been approved by the board.
I ask a quick question.
Yes.
I checked in with our GOP group, and I asked a couple of executive members what names they had submitted for consideration for you. Is that not a wise thing to do, to interact with the GOP and ask for their thoughts on possible recommendations? I'm just not sure what the procedure is. Could you explain how that works?
This is public comments right now, so it's not a question and answer time. So I'd be happy to discuss that with you over, but we follow state statute when we do that.
That's why I asked if we could pull it still, but I guess that won't be the case.
All right. Any other comments from appointed or electeds? All right, moving on. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from January 25th? Motion by Atkins, second by Schneider. Any deletions, additions, corrections? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Those opposed? Brings us down to our agenda. Items 1 through 5 are being pulled tonight, so they won't be on the agenda. Russ?
6 and 7, please.
Items 6 and 7.
Or 7 and 6.
Yeah. Great. Item 9, okay. Any other items? 14. All right, can I get a motion for the remainder? Motion by Nell, second by Sam Goddard. All those. I'm pulling item 17 also. Okay. Okay, I have a motion and a second on the remainder. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Those opposed? Can I get a motion on the appointments A through D? Motion by Graff, second by Longfellow. Any questions? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. All right, back to our agenda. Item 6, which is the text amendment, it would be LU 2504. It shows, 05. It's the text amendment, okay, the energy code. Can I get a motion to get that on the floor? Motion by Hall, in a second. Second by Kriebel. All right, so we've had a lot of discussion already on this issue thus far. Comments? Russ?
Well, I think the public testimony did a great job in describing most of the factors. I just wanted to sort of, from the inside skinny as a board member who attends ZBA and also land use, wanted to share that the ZBA had an issue with the text amendment, but when they were prompted over and over again by guess who, they really couldn't come up with any specific objections. The only person who gave me any feedback at all was Dwayne Lesson, our great ZBA chairman, and he sort of did that a la carte. Then it went to land use, and I made a motion to table it, and it was tabled for 6 months. That tabling, that moratorium and the tabling were used by the wind farm companies to propose to, as ammunition against Tazewell County, against our local zoning authority, to pass this state law. Very, very sad. I wished in retrospect I had not tabled it, but it's history, it's already done. So in the last meeting, I did take it off the table, and we did, by a vote of 5-3, recommend approval to this county board for all the reasons that you heard. So this actually will then, it is written in such a way that a vote, and Dave, you correct me if I say this wrong, I know you will, or Bill, but I believe a vote yes approves the United Citizens of Tazewell County text amendment.
That's my understanding, yes.
Yes. I recommend approval, obviously. Thank you.
Ray?
I guess I sat through most of the testimony too, and in actual facts where the ZBA turned it down 100%. And I think if we would have voted in August, it would have probably went down also. I think we're trying to get something that was a little better than what we had, and I guess I wish we would work with this group to try to come up with something that would be workable. ZBA the code is extremely stringent, and it was somewhat proved during the ZBA that there would not be wind turbines in Tazewell County. I have no problems with some areas voting them down if the people don't want their areas to be with. But I see the Hopedale one, I see them being good neighbors and that being worked out fine. The other problem is we're voting on something against the state laws. The state law is mandating us to come within 120 days to meet with what they do. I know there's some trailer bills, and I know Mr. Deppert with the Farm Bureau has been working with those also. He's very aware of those. But as far as how this is finish out, so I don't understand this even be a legal motion if we're really going against what the state's doing. I know some people say, well, let's have something so in case they come in and do it. We have a moratorium. The moratorium lasts as long as the state requiring us. If the state moves along, maybe we bump the moratorium further along, so we do that. So we do have time. So let's work with our code now, get it towards. I think there's some areas that maybe we can work to try to tailor our code on those areas. The state isn't mandating us to make this as good for both sides as possible. So I don't understand why we have to hurry up and force this vote through when it's really against the law. So,
Bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with almost everything that was said by all of the people speaking in favor of this particular amendment. Despite that, I'm going to be voting no. And the reason I'm going to be voting no, Mr. Sen just alluded to it, I believe that even if we could tonight legally pass this, which I think is debatable, even if we could, we would be putting ourselves on a clock that we have to, in the next couple of months, change the ordinance to the very minimum or the very maximum allowed by law. Even if it is okay to do this tonight, all we do is either set up a situation where in a few months we know we will have an ordinance that violates state law. I don't think that's a good idea. Or we know we will change the ordinance that we just adopted tonight, which I think is also a bad idea. I'm not in favor of doing either of those. I'm in favor of following the law. Now, admittedly, this is a law that I believe I referred to as asinine, stupid, ill-conceived, tyrannical. I probably had some other things I said about it, but I never called it unconstitutional. And I never called it that because, unfortunately, I believe it is a constitutional, even if stupid, use of the General Assembly's authority. They have the right to tell us that we don't have the authority to decide this. They have the right to say that our landowners are not protected for certain types of land use by their neighbors. It's an incredibly stupid thing they've done, and I will continue to criticize it. In fact, earlier today I was criticizing it to a member of the General Assembly. He didn't vote in favor of this. He wasn't there for the particular meeting. He was just sworn in after this had been voted on. And he agreed with me. It was an incredibly stupid use of their authority. However, it's their authority. And we don't have the authority, I believe, to take this action. And so even though the moral authority may be with the United Citizens of Tazewell County, the legal authority is not. And so I will be voting no.
Nick?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Just so the United Citizens of Tazewell County know, I grew up on a farm in rural Minears, and I support the efforts they put forth. I'm in favor of the efforts they put forth. I congratulate them on a job well done. But you heard Mr. Deppert sworn in tonight. If you missed it, he said he would support the Constitution of the state of Illinois. All of us took that same oath. All of us swore to uphold the law. After spending 35 years in law enforcement, I can't, in good conscience, vote for a resolution that I know is illegal. And for those reasons, I'm going to be voting no on the ordinance.
Nancy?
Of one of just a very few of you who are farmers on this, I represent this little group, very small group, by the way. And I want to just reiterate that I agree with Mr. Nick. I agree with Nick, and I feel the same way. I so appreciate what you people have put into this. I support what you're doing, but we are in a position that we cannot probably vote yes because of what has been done by the government.
Right.
Yeah, as an elected official board member, I think all of us also have taken an oath to serve the public interest and protect the public offers. And it is our collective duty to indeed eradicate favoritism and misuse of public funds. For that reason, I will be voting for the ordinance.
Russ?
There's a few members who I respect tremendously on this board and usually vote in accordance with their input, but I disagree. I follow laws almost all the time. The only time I don't is when the law doesn't make any sense. When the law is perverted in and of itself, ipso facto. You have an obligation, in my view, to not support that law. That's called ethics, morality, and integrity. And that's what you signed up for, to be an elected official and represent the citizens of Tazewell County. I can tell you, and I said this in the land use meeting, I know the state, and you guys know the state. In fact, you know the direction of the state. And this isn't going to be decided in 30 days or 120 days. There's going to be lawsuits. And case law is going to tell us what we got to do. And if you want to wait and have a moratorium until all that's solved for years and years, that doesn't make any sense. So what I also said is that we passed this, and then when we get better, more current information, whether it's from the crazy people in the state, in the Senate, and the House, or from wind farm or evidence or economic development indices or whatever, we would, in fact, I volunteered to make the motion to amend the ordinance. I always said the day I tabled it that we're not going to have a perfect ordinance. And we have the right at any board meeting to modify that ordinance and make it a better ordinance. So I'm all for that. But to let perfection be the enemy of improvement is insane. So those people who want to sit around and throw illegality around and throw perfect around.
Don't make it personal.
Well, I'm not. I'm talking about theory.
You talked about morality and ethics of board members that,
yeah.
Anyway.
Very important stuff. Okay. Very important stuff. So I'm not saying if we pass this, it has to stay in cement. I'm saying we pass this and we do the best we can today or tonight, and then down the road, we get new information, then we modify it accordingly. That's what I'm asking for. Thank you.
Dan, and then Roy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I usually agree with Mr. Crawford that in this particular circumstance, and I have a different view, I feel it would be in the best interest of our residents of Tazewell County to not pass this, because this ordinance seems to only benefit just a few people. You have to have a giant chunk of land to have a wind turbine, right? And there's very few people who do that. No one's being forced to have a wind turbine on their property. You have the choice, yes or no. If you sign up, there's monetary benefit. If not, you don't have to. No one's forcing you to do it. Thank you.
Roy? No, I just want to add that I think we are Tazewell. We're better than they are in Springfield. At least now we are. Put that to your thoughts and your vote. We are Tazewell.
Anyone else? Mark?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I wonder, will we not be the focus of a lawsuit from the first wind turbine company that comes along that after this law goes into effect? Then why would we vote for this? I think we should vote no.
Vivian?
I know that I'm just one vote, but I believe that I will stand with the people that were in this room tonight, and if they don't want this, I would vote for it to not pass. So, thank you. Even though I know it's going nowhere.
Mike?
I've not supported solar farms or land farm windmills since the day one, and I'm gonna vote yes on this.
One more time. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's not be scared about lawsuits. Bring it on. Thank you.
So, I'm going to encourage board members to vote no today, to follow the law. There's a lot of laws in this state that I don't like, and we have 90 days to have our zoning department to make as tight a zoning ordinance as we can. But I don't know how we can just thwart state laws. There's a lot of state laws that I don't like. And I don't have the authority to just say this to the state. And I don't know where I really appreciate everyone that's come out tonight and has come out for the last year. But I think we have a chance to do this right the first time. Because if you play this scenario out, like Mr. Goddard said, the first time, and we're going to go to court and we're going to lose, and it's going to cost taxpayers money, I'm not sure why we would do that. Why don't we get the best ordinance that we can? And so Dave, did you have a comment? Can you use your...
I appreciate Bill's interpretation. Has there been a legal opinion that has been rendered to us as far as our decision on this tonight?
Yes, I believe Matt Drake from the ZBA highly encourages us to vote no on this particular issue. All the findings of fact out of ZBA were negative. So for those who vote yes, just be prepared to look at the reasons and try to turn those. So, any other questions? Okay, we're going to do a roll call. Yes.
Make sure is a yes vote in favor.
Yes, a yes is to vote for the United Citizens Ordinance, and a no vote is to turn it down.
Atkins.
No.
Crawford.
Yes.
Depper.
No.
Goddard. Mark.
No.
Goddard. Sam.
No.
Graff.
No.
Hagman.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Jostin.
No.
Crable.
Yes.
Longfellow.
No.
Mennel.
Yes.
Mingus.
Yes.
Nelms.
Yes.
Pageant.
Yes.
Creel,
No.
Rich Simpson, Schneider,
No.
Sin, Smith,
Yes.
Okay, so the third time in 14 years, I'm voting no. So I think we have an opportunity here to send it back and get it right the first time. All right, moving on to item 7, the official Fond du Lac zoning map. Can I get a motion to get this on the floor? Motion by Schneider, second by Nelms. So we had some discussion on this tonight. Bill, I'm going to need some help on this. A yes is to...
The way in which it is phrased on the agenda, at least, is to approve the change in zoning.
The rezoning.
Yes.
So if you vote yes, we rezone the property.
Exactly.
A no vote denies the rezoning.
Correct.
Right?
I think we got caught up in the solar farm with this, but ZBA already voted that down. I guess the question is R1 against A1. I'm a proponent of ag all the way, but you notice all the people that showed up, there's probably 16 to 20 houses around here, so it's R1. The area is R1, so to revert it back to A1 would be a spot zoning. So we're not doing a solar farm here, we're doing a zoning change.
Right.
Yeah, thank you, Greg, for making that clear. Again, this is a shift in thinking. R1 is what it is, and R1 is how it should remain. And let's, again, Mr. Parliamentarian, a no vote means it remains as an R1. Okay. Thank you.
Vivian?
I just have a question. Why is this being addressed? I mean, why do they want to change from R1 to A1? I'm sorry.
In order to build a solar farm on it. So this is that first step.
So it has to be added.
Correct, correct.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mark?
So, Mr. Chairman, the ZBA has already voted down the special use, so they can't build a solar farm there. But this is, it's kind of interesting that we have people here that they're upset with the state of Illinois that our elected officials passed a law, whether we like it or not, and made a decision. And here we have another group of elected, another board, the Fond du Lac Park District, and we're going to tell them no. All they want to do is rezone it from R1 to Ag 1, and they're elected officials. We should let them do that. I think we should vote yes to change the zoning to A1.
Russ?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just the history on this is that the ZBA voted unanimously. First of all, you've all heard me brag about the Tri-County Regional Planning Commission. I love it, okay? But for the first time since 1978, which is a long time, they came up with findings of fact that I thought were flawed from the beginning to the end. And they had recommended approval of this solar farm with 11 yeses. My hat's off to Dwayne Lesson, the chairman of ZBA, and the ZBA members, and Jackie and the department, who worked very hard and did the heavy lifting of changing each one of those findings from positive to negative for legitimate reasons. And so it came to us unanimously by ZBA to deny it. My motion in land use was to concur with that and to recommend denial of the rezoning. As Mark accurately pointed out, the special use was killed at ZBA, but the zoning was still available. So we took care of that in land use to recommend it here, and we need to do that now.
just like with wind farms, there's a lot of us that are for wind farms in the right place. Same with solar. I'm a big fan of solar, if it's in the right place. In the middle, not even next to, but in the middle of the neighborhood is not the right place. Thank you.
All right, Kim?
Yes, thank you. Russ, you just said it right. I'm not for any kind of spot zoning whatsoever, especially in a neighborhood like that. Thank you.
Nick?
Chairman, I guess I'm confused. If the ZBA killed the solar farm, why would they still want to continue to make this agriculture?
Yeah, okay. Bill?
If I can answer Mr. Graff's question, I am speculating, of course, but assuming that there was any desire for some kind of litigation, litigating on just the special use would be easier than having to litigate on the special use and the rezoning. In addition, this could be the camel's nose in the tent. If they get the rezoning, then down the road they might be able to get the special use. In this particular situation, we still have the authority to take action, and so I'm going to be voting no to this in order to prevent down the road a situation where I feel unable to vote no. So this is a different situation where thankfully we still have the authority, at least as of today we do.
Right. Any other comments? Vote for yes changes the zoning. A vote no keeps the zoning the same. Dave?
I went out there today, this afternoon, and it did a good half mile of solar place in that whole area, the fence and everything. I mean, it totally would not be congruent for that area at all. And I think it's contrary to what the Park District should want to do with their land also.
All right, again, yes changes the zoning, and no keeps it the same. So all those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed? I'm sorry. Those opposed? There we go. Okay, motion fails. All right, moving on. Item 9, can I get a motion to approve this? Greg, I think you pulled this. Motion by Sin. Get a second? Second by Schneider. Greg, you pulled this?
Yeah, I see no highway minutes, which we have them before every meeting and stuff like that, so I'm just curious how many people bid and what was the next closest bid?
Yeah, we had 2 bidders. We've battled this for years about getting more bidders, but some dealers don't want to mess with it. You know, they can sell their right now they can sell trucks anywhere. So we had 2 bids, both from Morton. Truck Centers bid a Western Star, and the Kenworth dealer, whatever it is, in Morton bid, and it was nearly $50,000 difference in the truck. It was $277,000, I believe, was what the Kenworth was, and 220 some was the Western Star.
Okay, any other questions? All those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed? That brings us to item 14, the creation of a budget director. In a motion by Paget, second by Prail. How you pulled this?
Yeah, I pulled it. And again, I'd just like to say I'm opposed to the upcoming vote for approval on the creation of the position for budget director in the county at the administrative level. In light of the current economic environment, there is also concern in our community as to whether it is prudent to be spending large amounts of money, and if this position is really necessary.
One second, Roy. Hey, can I have people in the lobbyway keep it down? Well, we can't close both doors for the Open Meetings Act, but I just need them to. Thank you, Dan. You can close one of the doors, but we need to keep one open. So, okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. In light of the current economic environment, there is also concern as to whether it is prudent to be spending large amounts of money and if this position is really necessary at this time. This is a county where the average individual taxpayer's median income is $35,587 per year with zero benefits and no insurance. I'm not going to go into the history of Tazewell County Empire Building, but I will say this, now that the current board will move again to create a new administrative government by adding to their empire, which now includes this new position. If you remember last month, we created we added to the empire the Assistant County Administrator / Finance Director position. This is at a time when the population of Tazewell County has dropped 3.7%. That's from 2010 to 2020. So again, we cannot continue to live on the backs of taxpayers. We cannot keep growing government. We must be mindful of our constitutional elected officials, whose duties and responsibilities should never be compromised by imposing authority at the administrative level. The constitutional elected officials and their staff are the difference makers that allow Tazewell to work affordably and efficiently for the taxpayers, particularly during these economic difficult times. As elected official board members, I've said this earlier, we have taken an oath to serve the public interest and to protect the public office. It is our collective duty to eradicate favoritism and misuse of public funds. Those of us who are new that may not know what administrative government is, it's where the elected leaders create more and more unelected
Let's try
government
to stay on
positions.
topic, Roy. We're talking about the budget director.
Right, and what we're doing is we're taking an ever-increasing role to put people in position for day-to-day governance. There's a little oversight, transparency, or incentive to minimize the costs they impose on tax-paying citizens and less of a voice in our government process. Administrative government is not healthy for the governing body.
Roy, bring it back into the position of budget director.
I'm a no for this, obviously, and for the reasons that our taxpayers have asked me to speak on their behalf. Thank you.
Greg?
Yeah, this position's been needed for several years, and for one thing, because of budget constraints, we could not do this. We're at a point now where we can afford to do it. I believe it's costing us money not to add a person in this position. And so we need to approve this.
Bill and then Nick.
I am going to be a no vote on this one, and I don't have a list of reasons why other than I don't have a list of reasons why we should do it. And I just haven't been convinced that we need this position. So on that basis, I'm going to be voting no.
Yeah.
This is the second time we've looked at this resolution, and the position went back to HR committee, again at my request, so that we could see how it would fit in better with the hierarchy of the county. The HR committee did alter this resolution from where it was presented at the last meeting. They dropped the pay grade from an 18 to a 17, changed the position title. I agree with Mr. Mennel. We can't be in a position as we were a year ago when we had no budget, we had no finance director, and we had no county administrator. We're getting to the point, we've operated so lean for so long, we can no longer do the business of the county without having the appropriate staff to do that. Our county administrator and the assistant administrator work 70-hour weeks fairly often. we need to get some redundancy in our system, and we need to provide them some relief. And we need to give us time to start on a budget, probably in May. And considering we haven't hired anybody for this position yet, assuming it's approved tonight, it will probably be May or maybe even later before we get a position on board. So for those reasons, I'm voting in support of it.
Mike?
I support the position also, but there's a reason it hasn't been brought up. We have the county system as a whole needs reviewed and a lot of adjustment. And it takes a lot of man hours to do that, and that needs to be done, and this person will assist in that.
Any other comments, Russ?
I can't help myself. When I was the county auditor, chief fiscal officer, budget director was one of the hats I wore, and it was 70 hours a week then during budget time for months. And that was part of the job. And I think I was paid about $23,000 a year. That was a long time ago. But the point is, that was the 1840s, Nick said. That was before Lincoln. That's what Carol told you the other night. Anyway, my question is this. I don't want to, I mean, you know I'm a conservative about money, but I do want to talk about authority, because ever since I've been on this board, when we have a county administrator and it's time to have a new county administrator, it's up to the board chairman appoints a committee, a screening committee, we interview, they recommend a certain person, and then the board chooses that person. Well, I have a question now. You probably know where I'm going. If we're gonna put a person in and say that's sort of the deputy administrator, then does the board lose its authority to pick the new administrator? Do they have to then pick the deputy administrator? Did Mike then usurp, not you personally, Mike, but the position of administrator? Did you usurp the authority of the county board to decide who?
So we're talking about the
follows
budget
you?
director now, the assistant county administrator, that's already been passed. This is the budget director.
Well, okay, so then the next thing is, then when you do that, which then I assume you did, if you said that just now, then now we got this whole thing is then to put the real person in that's going to do that budget work, which wouldn't have been necessary had you not done the first part. I'm with Mr. Atkins. I'm opposed. Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, and maybe we can look at this a different way. We've graded now at 17, and we can effectively, since we seem to be in some disagreement, maybe we can compromise and call this a contract and eliminate the grade and do a 3-year contract like we did with our county administrator. That way we're not locked in. We accomplish what some are already concerned about with regards to the upcoming budget. I appreciate the fact that us old timers, Russ, we knew what it was to roll up our sleeves and work 70 hours, but I guess this generation is a little different. So in keeping in vogue with the new generation and thinking, I think a compromise of a 3-year contract, pretty much what we did with the county administrator, and watch and see how this works out. That way we're not locked into a pay grade. We can agree on a salary, and in the spirit of compromise, everybody here wins.
Dave?
I think you make an excellent point, and that is rolling up your sleeves and doing the job. However, if you don't have the qualifications to do the job, I don't care how far up your sleeves are, you're not going to get the job done. We've got a huge budget. Fiscal responsibility is the most important thing in this county. We have many components. Best practice is very important. Also, putting these components in a check and balance system, we can't afford not to have quality people in these positions. I fully support this.
So, Greg?
Representing the property committee, I'll just give you a scenario that we had. 2 years ago, we hired Farnsworth to do a study about McKinsey building windows. And throughout the lack of people in positions last year, we didn't get the opportunity to get that. It was the fall, and then rolling into the next year, we didn't get an opportunity to put that out for bids. just in that time frame alone, for lack of manpower and not getting it done, these bids came in, proposed a few years ago, 2 years ago, from Farnsworth was $800,000, and the bids came in this year at $1.8 million. So that's just the cost of aluminum, the cost of glass, and we delayed some time over a year, and that's what it costs. So I don't know if we need this position or not, but I'm just saying with the lack of people in the place to do the job, it costs us money. And we're getting ready to do an asphalt bid for parking lots, and that was proposed 2 years ago in the campaign budget 2 years ago, and we're not even going forward with that yet on bidding, and I know asphalt isn't any cheaper either. So I just want to say that it is very important that we keep people and staff to do the progress of at least the property committee, because it's very expensive. Thank you.
I would point out too that when we lost the administrator and our budget director, I mean, we're still cleaning up things from 21 that we got that far behind, and that costs us money too. It costs us a lot of money. So, all right. Should we do a roll call?
Can we do a motion to put that proposal for consideration on a 3-year contract, which would keep everybody moving along for 3 years like we did with the administrator? It's a 3-year deal, and we can eliminate the grade.
Can you amend that to a contract?
I think there is properly a motion to amend. The question is whether there's a second for it.
Whether there's a what?
Well, I think that Mr. Paget has properly made a motion to amend this, but I have not heard a second for the motion.
Second by Hageman. So, contract, I mean, we need fill in the details.
It would have to be like we had talked about with the other position that Mr. Paget had this motion. I believe I was the second on that one. That there would have to be a contract worked out. I mean, we're not making that contract part of the motion. He's not giving us all the details of the contract. That would be something that would be worked out if this amendment passed and then the main motion as amended passed.
So we have a motion and a second to make this a contracted position. Does everybody understand it, Mike?
I'm not going to support this because I think it doesn't set up a even flow of responsibilities, supervising, and the workload in the office. It has to be an employee that reports and can supervise, and I don't think a contract person would satisfy those needs. Mark?
Mr. Chairman, we already voted that down at the last minute, an idea of a contract, because how would that work? Because you can't dictate what an outside contractor does, so it really wouldn't work, I don't think. It has to be an employee if we have one.
It was not to be an outside contractor. Respectfully, it's going back to the committee to come up. Just Mike, our administrator's not an outside contractor. He's an integral part of administrative. Okay, we're doing the same thing, and any concerns that we had with the former budget manager or finance director, which we definitely have a lot of concerns that we're cleaning up, as the chairman said. And be advised, he was also an accountant. That doesn't mean that the next accountant we get in, we're going to have the same issues with, but at least this way under contract, we can control it a little bit, because we failed to hire the right guy from the committee the last time. So taking an abundance of caution, why would we go down the same path
So
again?
I'm going to stop you only because I'm not going to allow members to take shots. Yeah, the question's been called. Is there a second on the second to call the question? So on the amendment, so a yes is to make this a contract. A no is to take it back to the original.
Are you sure you need a roll call vote?
Well, let's just try it here. Okay, do you understand what we're voting for? A yes is to make a contract. A no is to take it back to the original resolution. All those in favor signify by aye. Those opposed? Okay, motion fails. We're back to the original motion. Is it for a budget director?
I make a motion to call the question.
Question's been called. Is there a second? Second by Nelms. Question's been called. We'll do roll call. A yes is to approve the budget director, and no is to not. So, John?
Crawford,
Aye.
Deppert,
Yes.
Mark Goddard,
No.
Sam Goddard,
No.
Graff,
Yes.
Hageman, Hall,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Josting,
Yes.
Crable,
Yes.
Longfellow,
Yes.
Mennel,
Yes.
Mingus,
Yes.
Nelms,
Yes.
Paget,
No.
Frail,
Yes.
Rich Simpson, Schneider,
Yes.
Sin,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Atkins,
No.
All right, 15-5, motion passes. Moving on to item 17, can I get a motion for the Voltus agreement? Need a motion for that? Motion by Sam Goddard, second by Randy Kriebel. I'm actually the one that pulled this. We explained this. Mike, why don't you fill in some of the details, and then I'll explain why I pulled it.
Thank you, Chairman. For this contract, it is allowing 3 of our facilities to be able to go on backup generators if the case were needed. The goal would be to help the community not have a brownout. The company is seeking contracts with different businesses and governments that have the ability to go on backup generators. And within the contract, it specifies a couple of rules. One, they would need to give us 6 hours notice beforehand. 2, that it could only be for 4 hours in any given day. And they also limit how many times during some of the peak seasons, the summer and winter, it can only be up to 5 days. And for spring and fall, it can only be for 3 days. And so this would give us revenue for being able to be basically on call. That'd be $33,000 over the next 2 years that we would get for this contract. We would also get paid each time that the vendor did need to call us. And there is specific requirements where we're nearing basically a blackout that they would call us for this purpose. And so from our estimates, our fuel costs would be roughly $1,500 during those 4 hours, and we would receive a payment of $4,000 for each time. So we would also be receiving additional funds above the fuel cost and overtime if necessary, if it were to happen.
Are there any questions? Kim?
Yes, Mike, was there any other outfits that approached us on this?
Good Energy, which is the provider we work with, solicited quotes from individuals, and this was the vendor that was willing to pay the highest price. So that is why Good Energy brought it to us. I believe it was $6,000 less for the next closest.
Okay, so the reason I pulled it is our state's attorney's office wasn't 100% comfortable with the contract. He wanted to tighten it up. We weren't able to do that. And I just wanted board members to know that before they voted. There are no penalties if we don't do it, but Mike, I don't know if you want to speak to this, but I just want to, out of respect for your opinion, I just want board members to know that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So I did review the contract. Normally when I review these contracts, what I try to do is look at it from the perspective of if there was some sort of a dispute or conflict at some point, how a judge would look at the agreement. And when I look at it from that sort of perspective, what I like to see in these contracts is, language that very clearly defines what the relationships of the parties are, defines all of the relevant terms in the contract adequately, and then also that the contract ensures that the terms are written in a way where the county has some sort of certainty in their obligations in the contract. With this particular contract, there are a lot of technical terms that are not defined very well. The So for all those reasons, that's sort of the short version of why my recommendation or my best advice was that it doesn't really fit what I would look for in a contract as far as being able to provide the county with the security and certainty and addressing some of the risk adversity that attorneys usually don't like. So it's really one of those situations where it's up to the board to kind of decide what sort of risk level you're comfortable with, if you feel okay with the terms of the contract. Determination in the contract is for breach of contract. It's not a contract that the county can leave just for any reason. It has to be for a material breach of the contract, but at the same time, the contract doesn't provide for any money out from the county. But of course, I'd be happy to answer any questions if anyone has anything further or would like more details.
Are there any questions? I mean, I've decided to put it on the agenda because, I mean, there is some revenue that we can gain and there are small risks, but there are risks, and I think Mike explained those adequately. So, Bill?
I just wanted to thank you for pulling this. Given the concerns, I intend to vote no, and I was actually fairly comfortable with it on the understanding that was discussed in executive, but with this discussion, I am not comfortable with it anymore.
Okay, Greg?
I'm a bit confused on this. Is this us running our generators?
Yes.
And we're getting paid to do that?
We get paid, is it $33,000 over the life of the contract, or okay, $33,000 for a 3-year?
2-year
deal.
And we need to run these things to make them stay good.
We do run them an hour a month.
Brilliant.
This would maybe be 4.5 hours.
And we're getting paid in order to run our stuff, and I think it's a good idea.
Nick, and then Mike.
Am I understanding it correctly that we'll never have an agreement that the state's attorney can agree to, or would another month facilitate that agreement?
From what Good Energy and Volta said, to guarantee this pricing, that was the kind of time constraint. They needed us to approve it, preferably a week ago, but they were able to extend it until today. So we could certainly try to table it or send it back to committee and see if that would allow us to have additional time. But ordinarily, I would certainly want to bring forward a contract that the state's attorney's office feels comfortable with. It was just the time component that we couldn't get this one worked out in time.
Mike?
I basically had the same question. Can we make the motion to approve upon approval of the state's attorney?
I think generally, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, usually I recommend against that because we want to make sure that the decision is of the county board and not that there's any sort of decision of the county board that's pending final approval by the state's attorney. We don't want to be put in a position where there's a policy decision that's dependent upon our determination.
So you're recommending we vote no?
I think Mike or Holly is explaining the risks that are involved, and it's not a perfect contract. And so, yeah, Kim and then Russ.
Thank you. Mike, and I did read all 98 pages of that you sent me. I appreciate it. But you couldn't make heads or tails out of it unless you were a rocket scientist, I think. But I did one thing that really stuck out into my mind was this grid covers 12 states and the whole province of Manitoba, Canada. I have problems with that. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not comfortable with approving, just like the administrator just said, not having a language concurrence by the state attorney's office. My recommendation would be either to table it as a board here, or if you'd prefer, Mr. Chairman, refer it back to the committee until you get that symbiosis between the state attorney's office and then bring it back to the board. Thanks.
So we could potentially do it, but it may not be available to us next month. So,
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we table it till next month.
by Graff to table, second by Schneider. All those in favor of tabling this to next month, it may not be good, but we're going to do that. Signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's been tabled.
Who was against the table? Sin? Middle?
Okay. All right, any unfinished business? Anna's been doing a great job getting